these are my friends. Come along with me, see how the story ends.
This episode is brought to you by testkitplus.com. We all know how important it is to prioritize your health and well-being, especially when it comes to recreational activities. That's why we want to tell you about our buddies over there. They can be your go-to resource for high-quality, easy-to-use recreational test kits. Whether you're planning a weekend getaway, attending a music festival, or just having a good time with your friends, it's really important to make sure you know what you're putting into your body. So head on over to testkitplus.com/professional hippies. That way you can be sure you're safe and you have the peace of mind of what you're putting in your body. They have test kits designed to detect a wide range of substances, providing accurate and reliable results in the comfort of your own home. Knowledge is power, so don't leave anything to chance. Again, that's testkitplus.com/professional hippies. This episode is brought to you by North Spore. Ever wondered what secrets lie beneath the forest floor? What if I told you there's a hidden kingdom waiting to be explored right in your own home? North Spore is your getaway to this magical world. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned mycologist, North Spore has everything you need to cultivate culinary delights, medicinal powerhouses, and even a little mind-expanding magic. Unlock the power of fungi with their top-notch spawn, easy-to-use kits, and a treasure trove of knowledge. If you're ready to embark on your mushroom journey, visit northspore.com and discover a community of passionate growers, expert resources, and endless possibilities. It's time to tap into the ancient wisdom of fungi and transform your world. Be sure to use code ProfessionalHippies for a very special discount to fuel your fungal exploration. North Spore, where wonder grows. Love than anything. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Professional Hippies. Hey, today we really hope you guys stick around because we are honored to have a guest that I've been super excited to have on. Before I actually get into your bio, Beth, like one of the things I was trying to remember to introduce you with was the first time we met. And if I remember correctly, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, it was near a bowl of intergalactic chili at the Fit for Service event in Sedona. So I'm sitting on what I felt like the face of Mars because we're out in the desert, right? And someone had brought together, I guess, like the most amazing chili I've ever had. And I think that was the first time I bumped into you and we were having a conversation at that little dance party. Do you remember that?
I remember, yes, I remember it was definitely at Fit for Service. I remember, I think a table involved, dance party. I don't know, that whole week is kind of a blur.
Yeah.
But yes, the intergalactic something or other in Sedona sounds about right. I actually had my second UFO sighting the week after I got back from Sedona.
Well,
Fun
something's
fact.
got to be connected there. So let me give you a
Well,
proper
I kept
build
trying
up.
to see them in Sedona. I'm like, come on, I want to see all the UFOs here.
We're going to come back to that for sure.
Because the reason I was excited to have you on is because, honestly, in a time where so many people are looking to navigate their inner world, it just makes sense that there's going to be disconnected pieces for the leaders. Like mentors need mentors, coaches need coaches. And I think for kind of the consciousness that does feel like collectively is evolving, at the end of the day, the ironic part in psychedelic and ceremonial spaces is that the new taboo word is almost business. And so having you on, I'm super excited to introduce you to our audience to get to know you, the offers, and the way you show up. And so to fill the gap for everyone, Beth Weinstein's a spiritual business coach, specializing supporting coaches, healers, and transformational entrepreneurs. She has over 19 years of experience in business and scaling. Her coaching style blends practical business strategies with spiritual teachings and somatic soul embodiment work. Influenced by her deep involvement with sacred plant medicines and psychedelics over 25 plus years, we'll say. Beth is also a deep advocate for plant medicines, psychedelic advocacy, actively participating and supporting in various related causes and organizations. You can tell I definitely prepared this because it's a little too long, but her approach emphasizes authenticity. And I would put a big, bold, underlined, and highlighted statement there. So if you need to know how legit she is, she runs the Medicine for These Times podcast, recently rebranded, if I've been following closely enough, in line with authenticity. Because, fuck AI or algorithms, all the above, right? So Beth has spoken on multiple stages, podcast summits, been featured in New York Post, Huffington Post, the Plant Spirit Summit, Psychedelic Summit, and more. Woo, girl. I mean, there's so much more too we could have said. I mean, I tried to keep it concise,
Sounds
but
about right.
when you put it on paper and you speak it out loud, just want to let everyone know. Yeah, I really am excited to have you on here. And yeah, we can structure this in a campsite fire chat, or, also dig into a little bit more of the formal aspects of like what you teach, how you show up. So to kick it off anywhere though, I mean, what I'm genuinely curious in, and I haven't had the chance to really get to know, is like, how did this all get started? How do you get here?
I know, right? I ask myself this constantly. Yeah, it's very strange. We were just talking a little off camera about my first hit of acid at the age of 14, and who knew that this would take me to this place where it's a huge part of my life. I do remember when I was a little kid having these kind of what I now call activations. I don't know what they were, but at a very young age, I started pondering what life was all about. At probably young, too young to even think about work or making money or what I'm going to do when I grow up. But I started wondering, like, what was the purpose of being alive? At probably the age of 7, 8, very young, I started having what I would call these spiritual activations, spiritual awakenings at that age, and actually pondering death. Um, and then I would start to do these things. I would lay on the grass and kind of close my eyes, and I would try to go into my brain and see what was there. It was kind of this fun exercise I did, and I don't really remember why I was doing it, but it was just pure curiosity. And I come from this very typical American like suburban family where it's like you're trained at a very young age to just study a lot, go to college, get a job, and that was basically the programming. There was never anything around do what you love and like, make an impact in the world and, feel into your heart. It was definitely not any of that programming. It was the programming that came from a life is about getting a job and making money and buying a house and, doing all the things you're supposed to do. And I was like, but then what? Like, that's it? Like, then you die? So it started at this really young age. And then, of course, doing acid at the age of 14 and stepping into the psychedelic space of doing a lot of other psychedelics from that age onward. I think it started waking up a lot very early. I remember also at a young age feeling this feeling like I'm here to work for myself. I didn't know what entrepreneurship was, but I actually used to play a game with my best friend who grew up 2 doors away from me in the California suburbs. We used to play a game where we both pretended to have businesses and we would fly around the world, and we were these kind of like female business owners who it wasn't about like, oh, we have a house. It was about like having this freedom life. And again, that was like our fun imagination game. So I always knew that was what I was here to do. I didn't know what it meant. I just knew that, and I used to say I want to be the person not owning a business but the person behind the business, like number 2. I didn't know what that meant. My parents were not entrepreneurs, although my dad did start something at one point. So I think he actually wanted to be. He didn't follow through with it after, a few years. But when I did the whole programming thing, I went to college, I got a job, and at a young age, it was just like, okay, let me make enough money to have a good time. I lived in New York City. I had a decent, but like just getting by corporate job. But like most people I knew, we were all working our butts off and generally very miserable. So the only way we dealt with the misery was to numb ourselves constantly with lots of drugs and alcohol and that whole lifestyle, which is great when you're 20 something, right? It's like doing a lot of drugs and getting wasted constantly works for a while, especially in New York City. It's kind of part of the culture there. But there came a time, especially because I was always on this inquisitive, this path of spiritual awakening. Originally I went to college for psychology and art history, and I thought I wanted to be a therapist. And so there was always this part of me that was wondering what this was all about. And then in the middle of my Saturn return at the age of, 20, it was my late 20s. My dad, there were a series of things, but one of the big ones was that my dad got sick and died very quickly. It was like within a month. It was, oh, he has cancer. Oh, okay, we'll just cure it. And then he died. That really hit me hard. At the same time, my boyfriend at the time, his dad also had cancer and also had died that exact year. And so it was kind of a double whammy because our dads were not that old, you know?
Mhm.
So that was kind of this turning point where I really started questioning, like, what is this all for? My dad worked his whole life, had a decent job. I don't think he loved it. I think it just did the job. It was like enough to have some pride. And then he retired and died, you know? So I just started questioning everything. I also knew that I was in a misaligned career. You know, like I liked the work I did. I just didn't really have anything invested into it. And as I got older and I had also started to use this death experience as a teacher, I started to really question, like, wait, where do I want to be in the next 10, 15, 20 years? Like, is this what I want my future to be? So I started really feeling into it. And at the same time, my spiritual awakening just kept expediting more and more. I just kept having numerous dark nights of the souls and kind of these awakening experiences. But it got to the point where I had moved jobs a lot. And then I had finally been laid off from this one job. And I took time off to travel. It was only a few months that I took off. It wasn't that long, but during that time, it was right before 2012. It was like 2011. I had another like really big awakening and this epiphany, which is also, by the way, the first time I heard about like the earth coming to this big change. And there was something in me that just shifted where it was like, wait a second, like, what am I waiting for? And I had read a couple books that made me just say to myself, like, what if I just started taking steps towards what I really wanted to be doing? And I knew it was something around a business. And I had been running a lot. I had take up endurance running. I used to run a lot of marathons and ultra marathons, including the Burning Man ultra marathon a few times. And
Crazy.
yeah, yes, I thought you'd enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I had been actually thinking of this running clothing brand for years. Like it had been something I had just been thinking about. I'm like, oh, why isn't there this one brand for people like me who want it this way, who's, producing it in a more sustainable way? Because I worked in this apparel industry where I was witnessing going to factories in China and seeing I was in one of the worst industries you could possibly be in for the environment. And the irony was, originally, when I went to college, I was actually on track to be an environmental science major. So there I was, like, always highly connected to the earth, but in this completely misaligned world of the apparel, and seeing and starting to feel like, wait a second, I am doing something that is so far off from my values that I don't know if I can do this any longer. Plus, I didn't actually love like anything about the whole industry. So there was a lot of this dissonance happening between like why I was doing what I was doing and what I really wanted to do. And it was really just a series of events that took me to this place of following my heart and giving it a try. It didn't mean I quit my job. I just took a lot of different steps. And one of them was that I moved from the corporate world to the tech startup world. And when I moved to the startup world, I got to experience entrepreneurship. I worked at these early stage companies that only had like, 8 employees. And I'm like, wait a second, these founders are just as smart as me. And they're just visionaries that are going for it. So it was a lot of questioning and curiosity around having a lot of spiritual awakenings and, working with a lot of psychedelics over the years. It's like, I personally believe if you're on this path, you can't go too long playing the game of not really living authentically, because the psychedelics will bring you towards the path of your authentic truth. So it was kind of like these different things started colliding at once, and I eventually went and started up this running clothing line. And when I had done that, I was still working in the tech world and started this business, and then people kept coming to me asking for help, like, how'd you start this business? Can you help me out? I want to start one too. So I used to have a lot of like coffee dates and like phone calls, and I would tell them everything I did to get this started. And mind you, I wasn't like super successful, but I had gotten it up and gotten sales and been published in some big publications and like started, being on the radar of the running community, which at the time was like not gigantic, but it was a niche. And I would help all these people, and then I would run into them, like a year or two later, and they would have, most of them hadn't started their business. So that's when I was like, well, why is it that I'm having these like 2-hour coffees with people and then they're doing nothing? And that's when it hit me. I'm like, oh, people, it doesn't come naturally to most people, business. I mean, it's, especially if you're creative or, you want to just like, you have this vision, but you're not actually good at business. So that's when it hit me where I said to myself, the next person that asks me for help, I'm going to make them work with me for a few months and pay me money because they need to have skin in the game and they need consistency. So that's how I accidentally got this first coaching client. I did not know there was such a thing as a coach. That's the funniest piece. I actually had other people start to tell me that I should be a coach. And I'm like, what? It first started with like, you should be a career coach. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want people to have careers. Like, I don't believe in that. But then it kind of like came naturally and people started telling me like, wow, you'd be really good at this. And so it was kind of like a combination of things happening. And then, I'd been working with psychedelics, but then you bring in, the ayahuasca, which came in about 11 or 12 years ago. And it was kind of like that, along with these other changes, along with things that were just appearing in my reality, brought me to this place of like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll try this business coaching thing. And I was still running my other business and I started business coaching, and then the coaching took off pretty fast. And my heart in the running apparel business was, less and less invested. I was also kind of just burnt out from it. And, frankly, it wasn't really my passion. So I had really gone gung ho into business coaching. And then the one thing that was happening, I had actually had some medicine folk as clients way back in 2016, 2017. And I remember one of these clients lived in Australia. And I was like, this is interesting. This woman found me. Somehow she knew I worked with medicine, even though I did not tell a soul. I sometimes spoke in code, like a little bit of code back then. But I remember when I worked with this first person that was very open about their own work with medicines, I said to myself, I'm like, wow, this is great. We can talk openly. She also is integrating her medicine work into her life's work and her path, her career. And I was also working with coaches that didn't understand what I was up to. Coaches that were like spiritual and into certain things, but they weren't on this path. And so what started happening, and I hate saying this because it sounds so cliche, and I acknowledge this, but yeah, it started coming through the medicine. I had done multiple dietas in 2016, 17, 18, 19, and then 22, 23. But there was a dieta that just showed me this one vision. And the vision was basically me not really showing my fullest self. And it was showing me and telling me that I need to talk about this piece in my work, meaning my own plant medicine path. And I was like, hell no. I mean, you have to remember back then, it's not what we are, experiencing today. And I was like a no for 2.5 years to this, to the point where I was in therapy, like I was processing through this with my therapist, like regularly, like scared shitless to come out in public and talk about medicine. I had a coach who was thankfully a burner. And, I kept telling her, I was like, I'm getting all these messages about coming out with the psychedelics and the medicine work. And I'm like, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And, it's like, I didn't want to incriminate myself or my whole community, or, it was like a kind of not a public thing back then. And it was really interesting when I worked up the nerve to finally come out and talk about it. I decided to do, because I had already produced a few online summits. I had decided to do a whole summit around it. And I genuinely thought there'd be like 50 people that were into this idea of the discussion around psychedelics and soul's purpose, like the interconnection of how psychedelics awaken you to some form of meaning and purpose as a human incarnated on Earth. That was the intention of the summit. And I just thought there'd be like 50 people. Like, oh, there's got to be a little crew out there that'd be into this. And when I worked up the nerve to do this, I'll never forget, East Forest, who I know as Trevor, he's an old friend. I remember he had, I forgot if he had like just reached out or I was with him, but he had told me he's coming out with an album called Music for Mushrooms. And he was like coming out of the closet at the same time. And I remember it was right at the exact same time where I decided to do the summit. And I remember thinking, I was like, oh, okay. If Trevor's coming out with his album at the same time I'm coming out with my summit, now I don't feel so bad. This is fine. I'll be okay. Because we were both interconnected to the same group of people too. And that's how the psychedelic piece came in. It just kept coming through me and coming through me. But really what it was about was to help people like me, where I was like, I wanted someone that understood the medicine and also understood, the work I was doing in the world and business and how to integrate the actual medicine work into what you're doing. And I just kept seeing like there was no one that could really understand it. So I basically created something that I needed for myself. I mean, that's kind of what my whole programs are all about. But part of it was also like, why aren't people talking about these other aspects of psychedelics when all they're, back then, all they were talking about was like, oh, this helps depression and anxiety and PTSD. But what about helping people get onto a certain path? Or what about waking up people that are just in really misaligned work, which, by the way, in America, a lot of the depression and anxiety is caused by people who are living lies, doing misaligned work. So that's where I was like, well, the root problem with a lot of people is that they freaking hate their jobs so much that they're depressed, and then they go on antidepressants, and then they become robots and slaves to the entire system, which we all know is a very broken system. So that's where I just kept saying, I'm like, there's a root cause of all this anxiety. It's not about taking a psychedelic and covering it. It's about getting to the root cause and changing that, which is what will create a happier, hopefully more healed society. I know that was a lot babbling.
No, I mean that's beautiful. Yeah, because I totally agree. I mean that's the thing that I think a lot of people get kind of out of whack on, is thinking that like psychedelics are a panacea, and it's just a route, man. It's just one avenue of many you can take to kind of get back to yourself. And it's not to say that everybody has to be a unique, special butterfly of like exactly what they think they need. It's what they do need. And some people, I think, in corporate America are genuinely happy.
Yeah.
And I think there's a ton of people that genuinely aren't.
Totally.
And they just don't know how to kind of get there. So that's a lot of twists and turns to arrive where you're at, you know?
Oh, and there's so many more. Yes.
So for yourself, though, I mean, like, I guess where you're at now, because one of the things that I guess, Dylan, I'm sure you got some questions, but one of the ones that isn't on like the template of things I prepared was how your clients are finding you. Because in the day and age that we live in now, where it's like, if you want to build an online business, it's like, it's all these marketing levels and funnels and ads and stuff like that. But there's still this stigma and censorship involved with anything to do with psychedelics. It's like this weird gray area. Hey, it's okay sometimes. Hey, you're going to get flagged. Your account's going to get taken down. And for you, like, your lifeblood is having a presence online where people can connect with you. So how are you able to navigate that successfully?
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody else was talking to me about censorship the other day. Here's the thing. I believe a lot of people who've been censored for psychedelics are not being censored for psychedelics. They're actually being censored for black hat techniques, if you know what I mean. And anyone could Google and find out what a black hat technique is. So I've actually never cheated the system, which is black hat techniques, especially on Instagram and other platforms where you can. There's many black hat techniques. So I actually think a lot of people who get like mysteriously taken down are actually not being censored for their content. I think that's actually a lie. I do believe that a lot of people are being censored. We all know that. The algorithms don't want us seeing certain things, but psychedelics, I don't think it happens as much as people think, because you can actually look at, let's say, psychedelics today. I think they've never actually been censored. There are certain hashtags you can't use. That I know for a fact, because that's the one time I was shadow banned for using a whatever they call it, a banned hashtag, which was a few years ago, but it was like, I think it was like ketamine or MDMA or something. The only other time I've been censored was actually just a few weeks ago for posting a comment on someone else's post that was literally about plants. It was the strangest comment. I mean, it was like a very innocent comment, and then they just kind of like flagged my account and took it down for a week. Or they didn't take my account down. They wouldn't let me comment. So here's the thing. I really believe it's not about like what you say, it's about how you say it. And yeah, I also have clients working in sacred sexuality and tantra and like women's work, men's work. And so there's definitely certain things you have to dance around, like spam filters and emails. Like there's a certain level of practicals, but I am really all about like go for it anyways. And if you're really getting censored that much, go somewhere else. Like there's also, more and more platforms that are, the alternatives that are rising up. And it's like, well, go dominate somewhere else. This is also why I teach to build your email list, because I personally would never depend on social media for a business. I know everyone loves it. Everyone wants to be Insta famous. It feels really good to our dopamine hits, right? To get likes and go viral, because I have some friends that are really into just being influencers and being viral. But if you really want to build a sustainable business, you have to really be rooted in other places as well. So, which is something else I teach. So I've never been a fan of all eggs in one basket. But in the end, what it comes down to that I think is also going to be more and more important as AI takes over a lot, and we're going to see so much content out there. I mean, everybody's already overloaded and distracted like there's no tomorrow, and I think it's just going to get worse. So then how is anyone going to get found? This is where, I mean, it's a big one to say this, but I believe this to be very true. And I've seen the evidence for years with my clients. But the more in tune you are with who you truly are in your authenticity and in your heart, and like really walking the path of a clear channel, and meaning, like we're not all always clear channels, even people that say they are. It's like doing your best to really maintain your sovereign pillar of light, of like really knowing who you are, and like letting go of the compare and like looking outward and seeing what everyone else is doing and coming into yourself, like really pulling your energy in to the place of knowing, here's who I am. This is what I stand for, like it or not. And really opening up your voice. This is actually why I bring vocal work into my group program. My mastermind program actually has like vocal embodiment work that is taught by one of my really good friends, Maren Azoff, who is also amazing at what she does with this vocal transformation work. But it really is about knowing your truth and sharing your voice from this place of authenticity, from the heart path. And what starts to happen is when you mix that in with some of the practicals, I mean, there is a reality of like, okay, you also have to show up out there. What happens is people will pay attention to you. And you don't need to have 100,000 followers or even 15,000 followers to make six figures or multiple six figures. I've done it for years and I don't even have a big following, and that's why I always laugh. I'm like, well, some people just want a big following, but really it's not about the numbers. It's about the resonation. It really is. And here's the thing, it can't just be the energy. Like you can't totally just meditate your way into a business, which I know one person who's done that. He's done a lot better over the years, but it's been a struggle bus. But here's the thing, he is constantly getting out there and meeting people and talking to people. So that's where it's like the masculine and feminine. It takes the steps and it takes the energy. But I do think one of the biggest things I've seen, especially over the last few years, as more and more people are afraid to say things on the internet or afraid to speak their truth or afraid of getting canceled or whatever is, people now are just, they hate on everything. Like you can say like something minor and there's always someone that has something negative to say, right? It's just the world we're in. But it's caused a lot of fear in people. It's caused people to just shut down and be consumers of all this content instead of actually engaging and being themselves and showing up and being a light in the world, or shining their, what I call their sovereign pillar of light. So it is this dance, but I think one of the biggest things is to really get past the fear of, oh my God, am I going to get someone hating on this comment? Yes, you are. It's kind of like, yes. I always say, who is it? It's like, there were people out there that hated Mother Teresa, it's like, she's like literally was a living saint. And there's always going to be a hater, and you can live your life in fear of what other people will think, or you can live your life for your sovereign pillar of light. So I think, as the content and the noise is getting louder and louder every day, I think what it's going to come down to is energy. And with people on this path, if you're serving, the hippies and the medicine people and the people that are attuning a lot more, people are going to feel the bullshit. I mean, I'm already feeling it, by the way. Like, there's more and more people, and there's no problem with AI. I use it very sparingly. But now that everybody's touting like, oh, just grow a business with AI and like buy my thing and I'll teach you how to press a few buttons and have everything done. What's going to happen is everybody's just going to start sounding the same and looking the same and feeling the same. And people are just going to be like, there's no heart behind that. Humans feel heart resonance. There's just no question about this. And if you've worked with psychedelics, you know what I mean. And that's where, yes, it's going to take standing out, doing the things, writing emails, showing up in your community, putting yourself out there. And what I actually think is almost more important is really knowing who you are and sharing your voice and really like being in that authentic truth. No shortcut.
No shortcut. Was there a space and a place where you felt like you were trying to take a shortcut and the medicine maybe brought you back, or was it a coaching? Like, what kind of keeps you in a space and a place where you feel grounded and authentic? Because I think as you grow in, like the frame that comes up is like, if you've ever introduced medicine to someone, it's very easy for them to put you on a pedestal, right? Because you've opened up this whole different dimension and realm for them. And so I can imagine a similar thing happens in business when you help open up a world for someone where you're like, that's almost intoxicating in a way when you have a bunch of people, maybe not glorifying you, but being like, hey, like, holy cow, this wouldn't have been possible without you.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, to be authentic, like, you also need to ground yourself. So coaching coaches, mentors, having mentors, like, what do you do to kind of fill you full of groundedness and certainty and authenticity?
Yeah, I love that because I actually just said this to someone the other day, and I forgot which, because I'm running two masterminds right now. One's leaving, one's starting. One of them, someone had said something about me. Oh, I know. Someone new actually was like, oh, and I really, like she made some comment about like attracted to you and vibed with you because you do this or you do that. And I'm like, no, it's not me. I mean, I'm here guiding people. I'm here like teaching them like, here's how to make things effective. Here's the art form. Here's some, like bounce some ideas off of them, et cetera, et cetera. Like, yes, there's certain things I walk people through, but in the end, I actually drill this into my clients' heads over and over and over that it is about them and like tuning inward to what's actually coming through them. Because here's the thing, if I just taught like cookie cutter formulas, like people wouldn't actually have that success. What I'm trying to teach my clients is how to be empowered in like tuning into themselves and asking themselves like, okay, well, what is coming through me? Well, I really want to design this one program that has this and has that. And then, okay, great. I'm the one teaching you how to make that a success. But if I said, oh, here's a fill in the blank formula, it's just not going to work, because it has to start with you first. So I have this diagram that I use. It's built into my new logo. That's a pyramid where it's like you, the clients, and then this greater mission, and bringing these three things into balance and having that be kind of the beacon. But it's an even pyramid where it's not about serving your clients more or serving yourself more or serving the world more. It's about balance of the three, because you can't have one or one more than the other, or else you're either going to be over giving and underserving yourself, or you're going to be and burning yourself out, or you're going to be, a lot of people like just looking out for themselves, just in it for the money and not actually serving the client. And, hopefully those people are a dying breed. That's my prayer. But what I do, and this is again what I encourage everybody to do, especially people that work with me, is do the inner work to constantly be tuning inward into your truth. Like drop into your heart and know, like when you have that clearer channel and are like leaving the space to actually tune into your own tuition, when something is right or wrong for your business, even if you're totally new to business. So in the past, like this has happened to me one time, or no, there were two stories. One time I went to launch something and I thought it was such a great idea and I was really excited for it. By the time I went to launch it, there was just something in me that's like, I'm not feeling it. And that was that. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to launch it. And so we just put it aside and that was that. Another time I went to launch something because it was on my schedule and it was like, okay, I'm definitely launching it this month and it's what I did before and blah, blah, blah. And then I just started not feeling it, but I did it anyways. And it was actually a pretty bad launch, and that's also what happens where it's like when you're not really being true to yourself, it might not work out or it will teach you something, but it's kind of like I always come back to the why, like the deeper purpose. The top of the triangle is like it's you, your clients, and then like what's your reason? What's the mission you have in the world? And if you're not really feeling like those three are in balance and there's something that's misaligned, or it's maybe you thought it was a good idea 3 months ago and now it's not, that's where it's like it's okay to shift gears and do something else or put it aside or try it and learn your lesson, because that's part of the process. It's just like a mini dark night of the soul inside your business. But honestly, I think as the world changes and gets noisier and crazier and weirder every single day, I think, and this is what I'm doing, my prediction is that we're all going to have to just freaking slow down even more. It's kind of the irony. It's like everything's moving so fast, and I'm fast. I'm a double fire. I'm like a natural entrepreneur, but I actually operate internally very slow. Like I have my daily practices, I have grounding practices, I have, if I'm having like even a little off day, or if something's just feeling like slightly misaligned, where I'm like, okay, I know by now it's not even worth working if I'm off. So I'll actually go like do what I need to do, like go for a walk or go chant or just go sit or like hit the reset button, do a whole like mini Olympia, like whatever it is, and then come back to it. But what I've seen is when you're pushing through, and I mean, this is kind of the old paradigm of the world that I believe, used to live in, that a lot of people are still in. When you're like in that masculine energy of just still like pushing through, even if you're not feeling like it, or if it feels really off, or doing it for the wrong reasons, or doing it because you need the money, or whatever it is, it tends to like either not work or it eventually catches up with you somehow, the burnout or the something will go wrong with that client or whatever it is, so that's where I really, I teach this as part of my mastermind. It's like it's having an embodied business is really being attuned with like you and your energy and where you're at and what you want. And I think it will be interesting with the world that we're gonna see over the next few years and into the future. It's like, I don't know. I've had full on visions of like people are just gonna walk away from the apps and the phones and the content because they're just gonna get so fried. I love the internet world. I think it's great and beautiful and amazing that we can connect like this. And, it's like there is a point where it's like, oh my God, like our nervous systems. And so I also really encourage people to do in person and like real, like actual human connection work.
Yeah. That's the thing that I think Dylan and I like still actively practicing like sales roles that we talk about pretty consistently is like when you break the norm, you see someone's heart open, right? Like Dylan tells me all the time, like, the way he opens his sales conversations, different than what I would, but it's just a human connection. I think that's what we're craving the most, is for people to be real recognizes real. And the universe typically rewards that, because that, I mean, I don't know, in one vision quest I had or whatever, like that was the message that came through me. It's just like, hey, I want to see more of me. Like we came here to have this kind of like reflective balance of like really experiencing different slices of consciousness. And that's tough to do if everybody's dulled down, if everybody's numbed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, distraction is, I mean, so funny because it came through like a year or two ago for me. And now it's like everybody I know is talking about it. I'm like, that's so interesting. It's just so prevalent right now. And it's only, to me, it's only the beginning. I'm like, distraction. AI is going to be able to create content so quick. I mean, it already does. It's like the people that are like the TikTokers or the influencers are going to be churning it out like multiple videos a day. And it's like, then what? Like, it's going to get to like
I wonder if it makes it
nonstop.
to, I wonder if it makes what you were relating to earlier, it's going to kind of be repeating almost. I wonder if AI is going to make social media not cool at some point.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, or
it's
it's
just
like
like it finally just
all the same.
caps. It's just all the same, and everyone's like, I'm bored. I'm going to go do something else now.
Yeah, you guys want to go outside?
You want to go throw a frisbee or something?
Yeah.
Like...
Go on a hike. Yeah, no, seriously. That's what I've been wondering this too. And I've actually, and maybe it's just me because I'm like, okay, is this my psyche projecting? Probably. But, even watching this in like the younger people, it's like I have teenage nephews, and watching that, I'm like, God, do you really want to watch these same videos all day, every day? It's like, eventually it kind of gets old. It's like nothing's really that exciting anymore. And, more and more people are like, let me be weirder, let me be crazier, let me tattoo my face, let me get like 18 piercings. It's like everybody's trying to be different to stand out more and like dance half naked and like do crazy things. And it's like, who's getting the views? And I'm like, I don't know. In the end, it's like a gigantic circus. And in the end, I'm like, I think there's going to be a backlash where people just want to, I mean, I think it's already happening. Look at how many retreats are out there. Look at how many, like conscious events that people go to that are like, oh, we're doing actual connection work and we're actually talking in person. We're not just like on our phones constantly. And like people want to actually go and hang out and like be outdoors and be in nature. And, and we'll see what happens. But this is why I always tell people, build an in-person arm of your business and online. Like I've always had both. I always believed in both. I taught it through the pandemic. Like I still had clients doing things in person, in ways that wouldn't get them canceled. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be a very interesting world, but I'm all for it. I'm like, I have a backup plan as a farmer. Maybe.
Outside
way
of
harder work.
outside of social media, since it sounds like you've really stuck to your practice. You haven't let other things kind of come in and influence the way you want to do things, right? Being in the business kind of almost since the beginnings of when you started seeing it take off and you were kind of part of that. I'm curious what you've seen evolve, in the industry. Of course, social media has been there and everyone wants to come in and try to use that to build their business. And I love that you said that earlier. You can't have that as your main part, right? You need to have a good product. You need to be able to work with them. But I'm curious what else you've seen, evolve in the industry as it's becoming more prominent. And then do you see it as a positive?
Yeah, it's been interesting because, I always talk about like the transformational space, not just psychedelics, but like the whole coaching industry and the healing world. And, there's always the people that are like, oh, there's so many coaches now and there's so many healers. And I'm like, I don't know. My healers are like way more booked up than they ever used to be. And I personally believe, and I've talked to people about this. I've had visions of it. I've witnessed it with clients. I do believe our world is going in that direction where everybody kind of does need support. And if you don't have it now, I'm shocked. Like, I don't know how I'd survive without the people who support me in my life. Especially if you're on the medicine path. Like, if you don't have some kind of ongoing support, like, I don't know how it works. Like, I can't even do medicine without having consistent integration work. But I just believe the world is getting much more intense. It's, we don't know what's going to happen, but it's challenging. I mean, there's more grief than ever. The collective is It's heavy at times. It's, not to say it's also beautiful. Like, I love this world. I think it's amazing. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot of changes, and it's supposed to change even more. So, there are more and more coaches and healers and psychedelic people, facilitators and whatnot out there. And I think there's going to be a lot more coming online. The one thing I've seen that I would say stands out is, again, it's what I've witnessed, and I think is going to happen more, is people being able to energetically see through a lot of the BS. Here's the thing. I don't think everybody's really at the same place. So of course there's a lot of like the BS people. And when I say BS, I mean there actually are true like pyramid scheme people out there. And I know that because I paid them money once. Where they're making a very bad name for the coaching industry. It's unfortunate, but there are people that are basically getting people into their programs that are really not the right fit, and they're selling them a bunch of things for a lot of money, and then they're walking away. And I know this because I've actually had a lot of clients come to me getting burned by other coaches who are in like a PTSD state. And then they trust me and come to my program, and they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I trusted this. But it sucks because I'm the one that's like, yes, there's actually bad people out there, and it's really too bad, but it's always every industry, it's the nature of humans. There's some great people, and then there's people that are maybe not acting skillfully. So I think what we're gonna see though is, and I've seen this more and more, is there's more people holding them accountable. Like, if you are not acting in integrity, and of course maybe there's like one person that doesn't like you, but if there's a whole entire group where they're like, wait a second, you scammed us, or you are an actual pyramid scheme, or whatever it is, then like hold them accountable. Someone like, especially in the psychedelic space, there's been some people who've, like there's actual abuse happening. Like, that is not going to fly anymore. So that's where I think there's going to be a lot of like weeding out, or really holding people to a higher level of integrity. And also, the reality is everybody's human. Like, I have a lot of heart and sympathy and empathy and understanding that, like, okay, there is no such thing as a perfect coach, or even a perfect psychedelic facilitator, or even a perfect shaman. Even like the two people I work with that I've seen their ego maybe like for like a second, yeah, they still have an ego somewhere in there. But at the same time, it's really, again, going to come back to like, do you have yourself in check? Are you doing your own inner work? Do you at least have some support in your life that has you be in this constant conversation to be able to hold yourself to a higher way of walking this path? And that's where I even commented on someone's post today that was talking about abuse, and someone in particular. And I said, especially if you're holding psychedelic space, it's imperative that you have people that are holding you. It's like, you can't be an underground psychedelic facilitator or therapist or whatever you want to do in the psychedelic space without having your own like ongoing support, because you have to be kept in check. And that's, and again, like, we all know everybody's human, and do your best. So that's the one thing I think is gonna really stand out over the years, especially in the psychedelic realm. It's gonna be like, oh, okay, who's a crock of shit and who's for real? And yeah, and like, there's going to be people that don't like people, of course, but really it's like, are you doing good work, or are you just doing it for the wrong reasons? I don't know.
Yeah, I
So
think that's
we'll
kind of
see.
that's that's the good side of access to everyone, access to information all the time, is that the folks that are doing scammy stuff or aren't the right representation, I think, the scales are favorably balanced in the direction of those people. They can't really have a sustainable brand doing that, or business or offering, without it coming back to bite. So, yeah, I think everyone's got a voice, and sometimes it's going to be a bad thing. Sometimes it's a good thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, so, we really want to honor your time, and I appreciate you coming on, because there's so many things, there's so much depth to what you have to offer, that at the very least we wanted to give our audience the opportunity to connect with you. So outside of the mastermind, because that's closing up shop as far as the availability, right, for January? Or
When
how's
does
that
this
work?
publish? Well, so the way it works, it's technically rolling admission, although I really don't like people coming in after the end of February. So I would say the end of February is more ideal. I have, depending on who you are and where you are in your business, once a year, there's always one or two people that enter in March. That's usually if they're already like a little established, not 100% newbies. But the mastermind, yeah, that's the signature program. It is amazing. I will say this new group that's come in for 2024 is incredible. There's a lot of this I actually find very interesting. There are a lot of underground facilitators who are experiencing burnout, and they want sustainable businesses, and they're kind of sick of the hustle, especially
That's interesting. Yeah.
underground hustle. It's harder than the above ground hustle. Let's be honest. It's like, how do you market yourself when you're doing technically illegal work? So that's been very interesting to see. But yeah, I have private coaching. I also have a group intensive program that I think will launch in March. That's a shorter program. That's a little more for people who are either new or people that are looking to pivot their business and want to really get clarity and understanding of what their business can look like. There are some people that join that program that are experienced, and it helps really like move the needle. And for anybody that has trouble talking about their work and communicating clearly, that attracts people in, this program will really help you. Because that's another thing I find a lot of entrepreneurs, maybe they've had a little success, but there's something off and they don't even know how to talk about their work and explain how they help people. That's what I do in this shorter program that should open in March. And then I don't know, there's something being birthed through me. I have some idea. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. I've had some interesting experiences over the last year where things landed in my lap that I didn't actually advertise. That someone, some people came to me and said, "Hey, do you do this?" And it was interesting because I was like, "Oh, well, yes." And then it happened and it was like, "Oh, interesting." So I might lean into that a little bit more. I mean, I've worked with a lot of high-level leaders where they think they're coming to me for business coaching, but they're actually doing leadership coaching because, they get to a point where they're stuck and they're like, something's off and I don't know what it is. They think it's business, but in the end, it's actually just them. So that I also offer. And that's been very, very rewarding to work with these really high level people to see them shift as human beings, because especially even leaders in the 7 to 8 figure space, they're like, "Hey, something's off. I don't know what it is. And I haven't worked with anybody in a long time." Well, you know what? It's time to actually like take a different perspective and maybe shift things around a little to be able to expand and get out of your comfort zone. So we'll see what's birthing out of this year. Who knows?
Wow, bosses actually realizing it might be them and not their employees.
Isn't that funny? Oh my God.
That's awesome.
I'm like, who's the constant here? That's my favorite.
Before we go, I wanted to circle back to something you brought up in the beginning, your second UFO experience.
Yes.
I wanted to get that.
Oh my God. Actually, here's what's funny. The first UFO experience was with East Forest. Which if you look very closely at him, he kind of looks like an alien. I think he would agree with me. He's an old friend. I'm sure he wouldn't care that I said this. So he used to host ceremonies with his music. And I was sober and so were the other people. And there was this moment that I don't know how to describe it other than I was actually walking by a sliding glass door and I was walking to go to the bathroom. And there was the weirdest feeling. It was the corner of my eye. I was walking straight ahead, but in the corner of my eye, I saw something that my body could immediately feel was not from this world. And I'm sure other people who've had these kind of sightings would say the same thing. It was the feeling in my body. It was like, whoa, what the hell? Like before I even stopped to like turn around and see it, it's the most like amazing, weird feeling I've ever had in my life, because there's no other feeling I've had like that in my 40 something years of living. And so I turned and I looked and was like, and there were a couple other people looking, and I've just never, I mean, there's nothing to explain because there's nothing else like it, but it was moving in ways that you just can't conceive of. It's like, it was like here, and then it would like appear and appear and appear, and like the lights were changing, and it didn't have a consistent pattern of any sort, which was the one thing I noticed very quickly. I'm like, there's a lot of lights and there's no consistency. There's nothing on planet Earth that lights up like a drone or an airplane or a helicopter. There's always a consistent pattern to the lights. This thing was like full on random. And, you know, I have a whole group of witnesses. And when I said something to the person whose house this was, he's like, oh yeah, Trevor gets a lot of UFOs at his ceremonies. And I was like, okay. And he's like, don't worry, they're good. And I was like,
Don't worry. We've
and I
vetted
remember
them.
just
They're
being
cool.
like, holy shit. And then, of course, I'm like on my phone later that night, like trying to, you know, look up like UFO sightings, you know, who knows. So that was in like God, what year was that? Like 2016 maybe, or 17 or 15. I don't remember, one of those years. And so then when we went to Sedona, it was my first time in Sedona, and I was like, I want to see UFOs. Like, I want to see UFOs. It's the UFO capital, or one of them, right? Or it's like the vortex.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, we were there during Scorpio season, and I was there about 10 or 11 days, because I came early and to hang out and hike. And I had seen, in those days I was in Sedona, I had seen a tarantula, a scorpion in our Airbnb, a rattlesnake at Breathwork. Were you there when the rattlesnake was there? Oh my God.
If it was, I mean, I was hyperventilating into a mess anyhow. So
So Aubrey and the guys, we all went to take our spot, and I noticed, I was like, because I've seen rattlesnakes before, but I was like, there's something going on over there. There's like a little commotion. And I like lay down, take my spot, and I'm like keeping an eye on them. No one else is paying attention, but they're over there with like a big stick, and Kyle's standing there just like, "Ugh," and I'm like, oh man, there's a rattlesnake. I know it. There's a what else would they be doing? And yeah, there was a rattlesnake. So then I got home, and I didn't see the UFO. And I was like, you know, damn, there's no UFO, but I'd seen all these other things. I got home and I saw a snake when I got home. And then it was that, like, literally the day after I got home. And then that night I was walking by one of my windows about to go to bed. And it was kind of, again, it was like the same weird thing, where there was something like pulling me. I mean, it was a window that I would just normally like walk by and not think anything of, but it was like pulling me towards the window. So out of the blue, I decided to go to the window and like, you know, put my face to the window, and I see this like, I don't know how to describe this. It's like moving. And here's the thing, I actually live near one of the UFO capitals actually, you can look it up. It's called Pine Bush, New York. I didn't really know this till years ago, that there's like a whole UFO festival there. And it's weird. This thing that I saw was actually in the direction of this town. But it moved in these ways. And so then I was like, okay, here's the thing. I had spent 10, 11 days in Sedona, like calling in UFOs. And if you've actually read about, I forgot what that guy's name is, the guy that has like this whole show on Gaia. He basically says, if you start talking to the UFOs, they will start coming to you. Like, you have to actually build a relationship. It's like plant medicine, right? Like, I started talking to the spirit of a plant recently before I ever touched this plant in my life. And I started experiencing this plant spirit working with me. And I nowhere even near this plant. So it's kind of the same thing with the UFOs. So I had been talking to this, the UFOs for 12 days. And when I got home and had this experience, I started talking to it, and I was like, look, I need to know if I'm crazy. Like, I almost called the cops. Like, I didn't know what to do, because I was like, I want evidence. I want to know if am I seeing things? So then I actually started asking it to like show me a sign. Like, show me a sign that I'm not making this up. And that's when I was like, damn, this is crazy. Like, so then here's what's funny. I live in an area that's like, there's a big spiritual community, and then there's a lot of like townies that have just never left this area. They're very hardcore right wing, like whatever. I call up one of my townie friends who I'm like very good friends with, who I love. And I was like, hey, Mike, I'm curious. Does anyone ever see UFOs here? He's like born and raised here. And he's like, oh, yeah, like my whoever, his uncle or someone is like a cop. And he's like, oh, yeah, like all the time. It's like a thing. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I saw this one last night. And I'm telling him, I even said, I had a video. The video's a little, it's like, it's okay. It's
VHS.
No, well, but it's like, it is moving weird in this video, and it's going in this like circular motion that you can't, like, there's nothing like it. So I sent him the videos, he sent it to his cop friends, and there's all this confirmation like, oh yeah. And to them, it's almost like, oh yeah, it's like not a big deal. We've all seen it.
Yeah, get with the program.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the real disclosure is happening this year, if it's going to be a fake one, or if it's going to be like, maybe there'll be a UFO invasion like the week before the election or something.
I hope so.
I know.
Awesome.
That would be an interesting way to campaign. You just have a banner ad behind a UFO, right?
Yeah.
They'll be like, please. Awesome. Save us. No, I don't know. It's I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's the psychedelics.
No, it's definitely the psychedelics for sure.
The funny thing is, I've never actually I've definitely had interactions with certain forms or whatever you might say, but I've not had a full UFO experience on medicine, which is interesting because that would actually be very fun. But
the weird part is about after psychedelics is because like I'm a pretty woo adverse person as far as they go. Okay. But then, you have an experience that is so otherworldly. So like my whole organism is constantly in conflict with what I perceive to think I know is reality. And then this other side of reality, which I know is also not reality, that is reality. So it's like, I'm always in constant flux. Like a previous mentor of mine's like, well, I don't not believe it. And like, that is kind of a belief that I've had to embody for so many things. Cause you can believe whatever you want to believe until you or an ayahuasca ceremony and you realize the value of a spirit sword. And then you go, you know what? All right. A lot of more things make sense.
That's totally, that's the thing that's funny is I'm really into the woo, but I'm also I've always been extremely skeptical. I have a tattoo of an atom on me. I'm really, I like a lot about science. And, it's like I have to really know viscerally, like, okay, this is real. Like I didn't for years. I actually had a session just yesterday with someone I work with who is this older, like totally normal dude who doesn't touch psychedelics at all. And he's like, oh, maybe there's an entity attachment. And I was like, what? Like, you believe in entities? And he's like full on tells me this whole, and I'm like, it's fascinating sometimes. This guy is not at all in the woo. He's working on like subconscious realms, which, maybe that's woo, but it's like, it's kind of like, well, if I feel better and I feel like I'm experiencing exactly what you're walking me through to feel this entity, then like maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Like who we don't really know.
Science is the wooest shit there is. Like think about all the things that now are just like, if you were in the 1600s and you told someone, yeah, we can take a picture of your bones, we can just see what your bones look like. Like they'd be like, okay, sure, woo man. But now we're just like, no, what are you talking about? Your foot's broken. Go get an x-ray.
That's so funny. Totally.
So anyway, yeah. So if folks wanted to connect with you, Beth, how can they best go about it?
Well, my website, bethaweinstein.com, Instagram, Facebook. I have a Facebook group, email, anywhere, just DM me and check it out. I also have 2 free gifts, including one about psychedelic business and the other just about running a spiritual transformational business. And you can download those and reach out if you need anything.
Yeah, we can link those in the show notes too.
Awesome.
So we'll link that for you. All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. Oh, Dylan, we almost forgot. One last question. We love to ask all of our guests this question, and it's redundant in nature. If there was one question that you wished more people asked you, or one topic that you wished more people asked you about, what would it be?
As I crack my neck. One topic people ask me about. Well, I like when people ask about weird things like UFOs or visions or strange ayahuasca experiences. So that's always a good one. I actually did an interview with Hamilton Souther interviewed me, and all we talked about were like crazy things that we've seen on ayahuasca. I was
Love
like,
it.
wow, this is kind of like having an integration session with you during my interview. So those are always interesting, like how to like like this, like entities and making sense of UFOs. I like getting into the weird stuff. Why not?
Yeah. Us too. I think that's why you're a perfect fit to become an honorary professional hippie. So
Yes.
Can I get a certificate for that, please?
yeah, we'll certify you. Hey
Definitely.
guys, if you found this episode to be interesting, please subscribe. We got more weirdos coming your way, and hang in there for the clips, and go connect with Beth, and we'll see you guys next week.